I want to hear cannons. Downfield, pull up, ball to the 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans does it again. Fire the cannons, Bucs.
It's first and goal. That's picked off. And who else? Rondé Barber. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may ride to the Super Bowl with that one.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up with a head. Intercepted. 30. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25. 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And then the cannons come. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
(30-24), your final score on overtime for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Monday Night Football in Kansas City, Arrowhead Field. The Chiefs take it. They remain undefeated, and they advance their record to 8-0. The Buccaneers fall to 4-5 on the campaign. And I mean, what can you say about this game? The Bucs surrendered 30 points. Once again, 4 of their last 5 games. All 4 of those games were losses. They've dropped 3 straight and find themselves with a 4-5 record. Welcome back to the Cannon Fire Podcast. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew. Riding solo today. This will not be a fun show, but it is a show that must be done. Today we are going to break down and try our best to wrap our heads around that disappointing overtime heartbreaker for the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. An up and down game. Really a lot to take away from this game, so we're going to try our best to do so. The phones are on, and I would like to hear from you. Once again, I'm riding solo tonight, so please chime in. 305-224-1968, the meeting ID on your screen. 747-973-0150. What a game, right? I mean, you know, all things considered, I think we have to give the Bucs a little bit of credit before I absolutely rip into them for the next 35 to 45 minutes. You're missing your top 2 wide receivers. They found out today that rookie wide receiver Jalen McMillan was not going to be playing. So when you get that, you get Sterling Shepard getting more targets tonight, and he played great. You get Raheem Jarrett getting more targets tonight. He had a very impactful catch, couple of big-time catches for him over the last couple of weeks. And then you get targets to Ryan Miller. And unfortunately, you don't want your wide receiver 8 to be the guy that you're throwing game-changing plays to. But you play with what you have, I guess. For the Buccaneers offense tonight, wasn't quite the efficient day moving the football as they have had these last couple of weeks. 284 total yards, 189 through the air, 95 of those on the ground. Baker Mayfield, 23 for 31, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns in this game. And it's interesting because, again, the Buccaneers score 24 points. They score with a game-tying touchdown to Ryan Miller, less than a minute to go in the game. Kansas City gets the ball back with less than 30 seconds left to go and 3 timeouts. Now they're able to make the stop and force this thing to go into overtime. But just like the last time we saw the Buccaneers make it to overtime on primetime, the offense didn't even see the field. Bucs lost the coin toss. Kansas City took over. And just like it had been for the entire ball game, it was a slow, painful, methodical drive for Kansas City that resulted in a touchdown. So going a little more into Baker Mayfield's day at the quarterback position, 23 for 31, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no fumbles. Took care of the football today, but the offensive game plan early, you know, the Bucs were not taking shots down the field. And Liam Cohen, I think, had wanted to learn from some of those mistakes. He took credit for throwing Baker in the line of fire, making him basically just making him make tough throws these last couple of weeks. And I think he definitely adjusted the game plan, but there was nothing downfield for Tampa Bay tonight. A lot of the success that they had tonight was underneath. It was a lot of screen passes. It was a lot of yards after the catch, and especially yards after contact for guys like Raheem Jarrett popping up tonight to get a couple of first down conversions. So that was a big deal. But I got to tell you, I mean, still a couple of points there in the first half where, it didn't seem like he was settled in. Didn't seem like he was seeing guys downfield. Again, that was an issue. There was a dropped interception in the first half of this game. So I think the Buccaneers trying to make this offense work with what they have. You have to factor that into it. But at the end of the day, you got to be more consistent. I do think the offense, albeit a late score, probably did enough to win this game. And I think the biggest talking point, again, I want to hear from you folks. 305-224-1968. The meeting ID is on your screen. I think we can talk about the offense all day long. About what was good, what was bad, what they did or did not do. The fact of the matter is they had an opportunity after scoring that touchdown at the very end of the game there. It was 23-24. Buccaneers decide to kick the field goal, tie it up, and give the football back to Pat Mahomes with under 30 seconds, but all 3 timeouts left in his pocket. People are going to be riding Todd Bowles all week about his decision to not go for the 2-point conversion there. And this is the same Todd Bowles that multiple times tonight had opportunities to go for it on 4th down. And I know the stats say what the stats say, but he didn't go for it. Both of these head coaches tonight were faced with an opportunity to convert a 4th down right around their own 40-yard line. Andy Reid took it and then some. Todd Bowles turned it down twice. There were 2 4th down conversions tonight the Bucs could have gotten aggressive on, and they didn't. That 2-point conversion they could have gotten aggressive on, they didn't. You cannot allow Pat Mahomes any room at all. And that's exactly what they did by not going for the 2-point conversion. I think with everything this Bucs team is facing, you're down your top 2 wide receivers. You're down Jalen McMillan all of a sudden. K-Dot was playing well tonight. He stepped up. The running backs weren't quite as effective as they have been, but you have to give this Chiefs defense credit. We knew all week they were going to be a tough team to run on, and that was clear tonight. But with everything it took for them to get to that point, with under a minute to go in the ball game, you need a touchdown to tie it up. With everything that they risked to make it that close of a game, I don't think it would have been unreasonable to try and go for 2 there. I really don't. And I think that's a decision that obviously, it's going to kick Todd Bowles in the ass, but this ends up being another overtime where your offense doesn't see the field because of an ailing defense, a defense that has now given up 30-plus points in the last 4 out of 5 games. I mean, the Bucs are literally in free fall here. And the concerning thing about it is, this wasn't a game a lot of people expected Tampa Bay to win. It wasn't like we told you all week the Bucs were going to win this game. We said there's a chance they could be competitive, and they absolutely were competitive. We said that if the best version of the Bucs had showed up on Monday Night Football, they were going to compete in this game, and a lot of people thought they had a damn good chance to win. And I thought there were times tonight where they had chances to win. But questionable coaching decisions, time management issues being as bad as they ever have been with this football team. And then again, time and time again. If there's one thing Todd Bowles does consistently, it's get me on this podcast talking about how inconsistently aggressive he is. A couple of weeks ago, we're leaving Chris Godwin on the field in an unwinnable game against the Baltimore Ravens to end his season. But tonight, we're trying to end the undefeated streak of the back-to-back Super Bowl champions, a team that is due for a loss. The Chiefs have not necessarily looked like world beaters in a lot of these wins. They are undefeated, and they are finding ways to win these games. And you know what? Tip of the cap to them, because that's what great football teams do. That's what championship football teams do. The Bucs just fell apart. They just fell apart. And yeah. Again, I think a lot of fingers are going to be pointing at Todd Bowles. I think I don't know, man. I'm just the Todd Bowles situation being where it is right now. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of complaining about the same things week in and week out with old Todd. I start to worry that we have seen the best of Todd Bowles as head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's crazy because if the Bucs go on an insane run here after the bye week, the tune is going to change and it's going to be a tough conversation at the end of the year once again on whether we keep Todd Bowles or not. But I just don't think it's going to be good enough to win me back over personally. I don't know. We got a couple of people on the line. Thank you guys for holding. I apologize for the rambling. From the 813, you're on the Cannon Fire podcast. Who's this?
Yo, it's BK, man. Tapping in with you again.
BK, how you doing, man? How you feeling?
Hey, you know what? I do feel a lot better than I thought I was going to feel tonight after this game. I will say that. They'll need that win, though. I will say that. It could feel better.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess when I look at the game, man, I've just heard your Cabo soliloquy, and I think everybody kind of shares that sentiment, but I just want to start off by saying, man, God bless Liam Cole, man. This guy finds a way to generate offense out of nothing. I think even having Jalen McMillan on the field tonight changes drastically. What the game outcome is. I think we did put up a fight, but no, let's be realistic. Nobody expected to win this game. If you're mad that we lost this game, you're mad because we had a chance to. And that's just what it is. I mean, the Chiefs will find a way to cheat, and even though they weren't at 100, Bucs were in it. The Bucs controlled, a great portion, especially after that third quarter. But you had to know at some point that Patrick Mahomes was going to Patrick Mahomes and kind of get there. Some of the things that I really want to focus on right now is just that, I just don't think the coaching staff gave us the best chance to win. Number one, like you knew, I called both touchdowns to D-Hop. I called both of them. I knew they were going to pick on Josh Haynes, and I don't know this guy. I don't want to say he's trash, but this guy was not good.
Well,
and it's not even the coverage. It's how many tackles he missed tonight. Like, there was one tackle he missed either overtime or late in the game, and you could see the coach telling him, wrap him up. Hey, I don't know what else you want. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Josh, but if we don't make a trade, then we're not making a run. Like, that's just what it is. Like, if it's not Newsom, it's got to be somebody. But you got, like, dude, C.J. McCollum is playing lights out on the other side of the field, literally cutting the field in half. All you got to do is go get, at least in that, because I'm about to address the other problem. I don't know what was going on with the linebacking core today, right? So, of course, we always know 54s won't be on there. Outside of KJ Britt, there was 51, right at him. I cannot remember his name. But I don't know who he was. He was doing that. Yes, exactly, J.J. Russell. So it's like, I don't know what was going on. I don't know if Britt was hurt or whatever. But it just, like I said, it seemed like every time I looked up, if it was 51 or 52, it didn't matter. Same results. Cooked every time. And it's just like, come on. It's like, I could read these dudes' jerseys on the telecast because they're running after the tight ends. And it was just like they were never really fully in position to make the plays. That's one thing that just has been one thing all year.
Yeah,
right?
Bowles.
So I was fit.
Bowles tried to. I mean, he made a clear attempt tonight to address what was going on at the linebacker position with KJ Britt. So it was a mixture of JJ Russell. We saw Vi Jones get in a little bit at inside linebacker next to Levante David. So KJ Britt started the game. And then slowly but surely you started to see these guys get mixed in there. I'm curious to see what that usage is going to look like going forward. We'll see what the snap count is officially when it comes out here, probably tomorrow by this time. But, I mean, he definitely tried to make some changes. It's just there's other decisions that were made that you can't defend. You know, you talked about Josh Hayes. God bless Josh Hayes. We know that he is not the level of talent that a Jamel Dean is in this Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary. So I'm not entirely sure why they left him on an island with DeAndre Hopkins as much as they did. I know that, listen, play who you have available. I know they're playing with spare parts in this secondary. They are desperately missing a Jamel Dean, but I don't understand why a defensive-minded coach is continuously letting Josh Hayes, I mean, they were quite literally beating the shit out of him out there. There's no other way to put it.
And there was absolutely no help. Now, I'm not mad about the coverage, right? That's that. I'm mad about the missed tackles with Josh. That's what I'm mad about. And then I am with you on that. There's no reason why he should have been on the island. There should have been safety help, cheated, and we're on the 2-3 yard line. So this shouldn't have been over the top. I think the priority in that entire situation, which they played perfectly, was always going to be Travis Kelce. And Andy Reid did a great job of using him as a decoy at times and using him in whatever way he needed to do to get him the ball and make him a priority in the game. I think, they did it. I want to say one more thing on defense before I move to offense real quick. I will say that third down was horrible at one point, and I don't know what the numbers are now, but the broadcasters are saying, Kansas City is 75% on third down. You're not going to win a game that way. That's just not going to happen. Now, we'll say this is the one thing I will say. I think that Joe Tryon showed up in this game.
Yeah.
I think he played extremely well. You won't see any of that on the stat sheet because he didn't get home or anything like that. But those sacks up the middle were a direct result of him pushing that edge and pushing Mahomes straight up into Clancy. Like, pushing and moving that pocket. Got caught in a couple situations to where it's just like, okay, I'm on the tight end. Do I go after the quarterback? Do I stay? I'm a rusher. I go after the quarterback. My guys got me in the back. A couple first downs on that. But, like, that's not his fault. I mean, you just got caught. It's football play. But Joe Tryon, to me, played extremely well. I think the defensive line, for the most part of the game until, it got down the stretch, you could just see these guys at the gas. I thought they played extremely well to getting pressure on Mahomes when we hadn't really seen much pressure from these guys in these last couple of weeks. And that was just at least good to see. And we're just looking for any positives in there. I definitely want to do that because, I know we've been getting on them about that. On the offensive side, I would say, these freaking penalties, aside from the face mask that I'm still looking for, what I just don't know. You got a silent count. I don't see how you messing up a silent count. Then we've got, holding here. I mean, it is Chris Jones. I understand. We got to find a way to work that, but it's just there were a bunch of penalties from the offensive line, regardless of whether we saw them, agree with them or not, that left us in down in distance, and it didn't help us at all. So I just think overall, we had a shot. We always knew this was going to be an L across the board. So more so, I'm just looking at tightening up and where we can go forward. Got to make the trade at corner. I don't even think you can help that situation. This guy can't tackle. And that's one thing that you could always say about our corners. Might get burned, but they will tackle at the line of scrimmage. And he's just not there. And we'll see what happens in the next week. It's probably going to be the same kind of vibe, but, we just got to hold on one more week and then run the stretch out all the way, hopefully, to the playoffs. And then we'll see what happens from there. I'll sit back and listen to you.
BK, appreciate your insight, man. We'll talk to you soon. Go Bucs.
Absolutely. Go Bucs.
Yeah, so a couple of good points there before we get to our next call. First off, the defensive line. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, I mean, even Chris Braswell showed up a couple of times tonight. These edge rushers, Yaya Diaby, even the interior guys. Kalijah Kancey got double-digit sacks tonight. Or I'm sorry, Jesus, that'd be something. Kalijah Kancey got multiple sacks tonight. Vita Vea got multiple sacks tonight. These are guys from the interior. And this was probably the most consistent, meaningful pressure I have seen from this defensive line all season. It wasn't even just the blitz. It wasn't the extra pressure from extra guys being sent at the quarterback. It was 4 down linemen. It was an occasional blitz, but I mean, it really was these edge defenders doing a really good job at keeping Pat Mahomes in the pocket and at times rattling him. But listen, dude, there are some plays where it's just Pat Mahomes being Pat Mahomes. That big time play over the top, I think it was a 31-yard touchdown to DeAndre Hopkins. Looked like it was going to be a sack. And then Pat Mahomes just kind of does his thing, dances around the outside, floats it up over the top. Antoine Winfield Jr. thought he had an interception there, and DeAndre Hopkins just comes down with it. And if it wasn't a touchdown, it set up a score for Kansas City. But, there are certain things that they were able to do well tonight, and then there's obviously certain things that they just haven't been able to do well for weeks. It is a shame that the defense had the night that it did, because, again, a lot of those guys on the defensive line, Tyke Smith, man, multiple forced fumbles tonight, potentially, I think 2 or 3, but definitely had the one forced fumble that goes in the record books for him. He has been a force, and the Buccaneers are definitely glad to have him back in the secondary. There was a rumor that I had seen earlier today that the Buccaneers would be interested in looking into a Greg Newsome, the cornerback from Cleveland. I don't know how official that is. I haven't heard anything about it. I don't know for sure. My gut still says the Buccaneers trust their guys. I mean, the trade deadline is, 12 hours from right now? So unless we see a move between now and first thing tomorrow morning, I don't expect the Buccaneers to try and address anything else. But let's get to some more calls from the 727. You're on the Cannon Fire podcast. Who's this?
Hi, this is David.
David, how you doing?
Okay, so good. So I'm calling just because I'm just sick and tired. Every single time when the Bucs lose, I hear the same crew always, fire Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles gotta go. So I just want to remind people of a few things. Number one, we all know this is probably the last year for Lavonte David. Okay, one of the last years for Mike Evans. We don't even know if Godwin is going to return, right? Because this is his last year. And, with a team as strong as we were last year, and, with a really good offensive coordinator and everything else, Jason Light, he did not sign the right people during free agency. He did not try to do anything during the trade line. He did, it's just horrible. And I just don't understand why there is so much ass kissing when it comes to Jason Light. Like, if you look at the drafts, okay, the last 4 drafts, first and second round picks, it's always a miss. So he does a horrible job using first round and second round picks. And not only that, he can never sign a free agent to save his life. We all knew coming into this season that we were really bad at edge rushers, and he didn't do anything about that. We needed a center, and for example, there was Connor Williams available, ready to go into training camp, and he did not sign. And then he decided to go with Barton using a first round pick, Braswell using a second round pick. So it's always the same thing. So horrible thing. We all knew that in some point Jamel Dean was going to get hurt because that's something that he always does. And what is the wideout? What is the cornerback wideout that Jason Light tried to sign in coming into the season? Nobody. Even Bryce Hall didn't get enough snaps as a wideout when he used to play for the Jets. So what I always see, and I think it's a shame, is like this. Todd Bowles, he's a defensive mastermind, but he needs the right pieces to be able to make this work. Now, unlike last year, we have a really good offensive coordinator. All we need right now is a good GM who is not afraid of signing players, who is not a wimp, so that we can have a chance to run for a Super Bowl. And that's all I have to say.
I appreciate your input, my friend. Hopefully we'll hear more from you soon. We'll break down your points. Go Bucs.
All right. Go Bucs.
All right, so yeah, some interesting points. And I got to say, I'm curious to hear more people chime in about this. The Jason Light conversation has been getting louder and louder because when you look at the inefficiencies of the Buccaneers defense in particular, we want to look at Todd Bowles. We want to look at his system, and that is absolutely a problem. Like 100%, it is a problem. This Todd Bowles defense, the system, the miscommunication issues with guys who have largely played in the system for a long period of time, stuff like that is a problem. Player execution, though, and availability is another problem on top of that. And that's actually something that we had talked about headed into this season on the podcast. Even back in training camp, we were kind of talking about the defensive line, and this is before the Randy Gregory ordeal had played out, but that was their outside signing on the defensive line was Randy Gregory, which we knew wasn't going to be a game changer. Like, we didn't expect the Bucs to make any game-changing free agency signings over the offseason. We kind of knew that it was going to be focused on bringing their guys back. But even with Randy Gregory and that playing out the way that it did, we had questions. We were like, man, do you want your last reserve to be a 32-year-old inconsistent pass rusher? And clearly it was a guy who couldn't even show up to his job. But now the depth is an issue. Now you are continually relying on young guys. And to be honest, in certain situations, it's not fair to those young guys. Like, I don't think it was fair to expect Josh Hayes to line up for as many snaps as he did today against DeAndre Hopkins. That was certainly a choice made by Todd Bowles and his defensive staff. I don't think Josh Hayes went into this game expecting to line up against DeAndre Hopkins that much. It doesn't seem like a good business decision, but they did it anyways. That's on Todd Bowles. That's on the coaching staff. But the fact that Josh Hayes is in that position to begin with, the fact that they had to activate Vi Jones at the inside linebacker position this week to try and figure out what's going on. You've got KJ Britt, JJ Russell, and Vi Jones next to Lavonte David. And listen, Lavonte David at 34 years old is not the burner that he used to be. He still made some great plays tonight, has a great nose for the football, has an incredibly high football IQ. He's the leader for this Buccaneers defense. But he can't do it by himself, and he's not getting any younger. So when you think about the supporting cast, I mean, I guess I have to acknowledge that, yes, Todd Bowles did try and make some changes here, especially at the linebacker position, tried to make some adjustments. And there were some things that worked tonight. I think they did some things well against Kansas City tonight. They just did too many things awful, and it's the things that they have done awful for weeks on end. And it's losing them football games, and it reflects on Todd Bowles. But going back to that point about Jason Licht, the depth of this defense was an issue. Look at the draft picks that have hit. Talking about some of these recent draft picks, Kalijah Kancey and Yaya Diaby, I'm still a big fan of both of those guys. I still think they have a little bit of time. We said before the season, I don't think it's fair to expect Yaya Diaby to have 8 sacks again. I don't think it's fair. From a development standpoint, that's an anomaly of a rookie season for an outside linebacker, for an edge rusher, especially drafted in Tampa Bay, right? I mean, that should be the standard, but when you consider the other misses along this defensive line, which I'm getting into, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka had a good game tonight, has stepped up at a couple of times this season. I don't think he's on the roster next year. Chris Braswell, again, made a couple of plays tonight, but he has largely been invisible this year. On the offensive side of the ball, you've got all these draft picks. You've got an abundance of riches with draft picks in the running back room, which is great. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but Rachaad White, Bucky Irving, Sean Tucker, the caller did mention a first-round pick on a center, which a lot of people argued on draft night that wouldn't have been the best available pick for the Buccaneers to choose. So again, curious to hear your thoughts. 199 super chat from Big Country 2988. Appreciate you chiming in. Let me know. Sorry about the camera there, folks. Hold on. Let me do this here. Bam, 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 bam. Gotta love it, right? So talking a little bit more about the rest of this football game and what went wrong for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One of the things that went horribly wrong for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight on the defensive side of the ball were third downs. You want to look at third down efficiency for Kansas City. They were 12 for 18 tonight on third down. They were 1 for 1 on first down. They ran 83 total plays, and they controlled the clock for 40 minutes. 40 minutes. Now, there was overtime played in this game, so it was about an hour and 5 minutes, almost an hour 6. But Kansas City held the ball for 40 minutes and 42 seconds. The Buccaneers only had it for 25 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, There were a couple of times tonight where the offense stalled out. They couldn't get going, whether it was a back-breaking penalty, which killed them at several times tonight, just stalled out drives. Either a back-breaking penalty, a bad series of play calling, just couldn't get anything going. Baker wasn't seeing guys downfield. It wasn't as easy of a task for them to move the football this week, but the defense on third down couldn't stop a goddamn thing. They could not get off of the field. And it was just excruciating to watch. I mean, it was like ripping toenails off. It just hurt. It hurt. Checking in on the live chat here. We got some lovely folks. Hopefully some new subscribers. A lot of Kansas City Chief fans in here tonight. I imagine some Buccaneer fans in here as well if they're checking in on what we're talking about, but glad to have you guys in here. Florida man, JNav33. Nick Yenowine, I think I said that correctly. Charles W. Jansen, the second. John Dawson, thank you again for the $2 super chat, Big Country. Appreciate you guys. Realtor Dave Zussman checking in. Oh, a lot of Chiefs fans in here. Mikey Kelly, our good buddy MK. Todd Bowles has broken our good friend MK, by the way. I want you to know that Mikey Kelly was Mr. Bucks by 50 every single week. And I don't think I've ever seen him this depressed in all the years that I've known him. Mikey Kelly has been in our chat. He's been on our Instagram for almost as long as we've done the show. I think 2018, 2019 is when we first started talking to our good buddy MK. And I've never seen him this down. Yeah, Big Country, call in, my friend. We do have the phone number on the screen. If we can't get any calls, then we'll call it a night early. 305-224-1968. Meeting ID on your screen, 747-973-0150. We'd love to hear your thoughts about that. Todd Bowles not getting aggressive there. That could have been the dagger. You know, that is a move that I think you have to make when you're playing Pat Mahomes. And I hate to just glaze this guy like this, but he does it time and time again. And even when it's a lackluster season for him, even when the Chiefs are barely finding ways to win games, they're still finding ways to win games. And that's what championship teams do. And I think Todd Bowles, I don't think anyone would have been upset with him if he had pulled the trigger there and they don't get it. I really don't. You delay the inevitable. You don't lose in overtime because your offense can't even get on the field. Look at the coin toss. If I could show you the video without getting a copyright strike, Baker Mayfield knew it was over as soon as the coin toss happened. You can see his body language. You can see the way that he reacted. He knew that they were not going to see the field. Let's get to some more calls here from the 941. You're on CFP. Who's this?
Hey, my name's Andrew.
Hey, Andrew. How you doing?
Besides today, I'm doing pretty well. I guess apart from like a lot of the flaws going defensively, boy, do we miss Servati on the defense.
Who would have thought, right?
Yeah. Apart from the flaws, I think this has also been a mixture of being plagued with injuries, at least in my opinion. And a lot of people say that after San Francisco that we could possibly make a run, but even if we do miraculously make a wild card spot, I just have zero faith that you're going to be able to compete if we have to face Minnesota or Detroit. I just have zero faith, and this defense is just throughout the past couple of years, I've been back and forth on Todd Bowles, but I think right now I'm at a point where I just have zero faith that he is just the guy to take us to that next level.
Well, and that's the most disappointing part of the Todd Bowles experience thus far. He no longer has a 500 record after tonight. I Bleav he is now fallen to 21-22 as the Buccaneers head coach. But like I don't have the faith, like you said, I don't have the faith that he can get this thing turned around effectively. I think he can get it turned around just enough for them to go on a 6 or 7 game run to barely make the postseason. But it's like, when you see a game like week 2 on the road against the Lions, as shorthanded as they were missing Luke Gedeke. They were missing other important guys. I do not believe Antoine Winfield played that game, if I remember correctly. That Lions game, the way that they won that game, I thought they had turned a corner. And that's the most disappointing part of it, is because every time you feel like a Todd Bowles team has turned the corner, they just completely shit the bed and take 2 steps backward the following week, or the following weeks, because now for Tampa Bay, after as good of a start to the season as they had, this thing is now snowballing. And again, we kind of knew that after a while, it was going to be a battle of attrition to get to the bye week in one piece. Injuries have absolutely decimated this roster. I think either Mike Evans or Chris Godwin adds another dimension to this offense that, just wasn't there tonight. And that's okay to admit. But yeah, the struggles on the defensive side of the ball. Play with who you have. I know availability is the best ability, and we were kind of talking earlier about the depth concerns headed into the season. But the fact of the matter is, like, there's so many problems with this team that point to coaching. And my gut tells me that with what we have seen, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, it feels like we have already seen the best of what Todd Bowles has to offer, because it's going to take an effort, just like it took last year, for them to make the playoffs at this point. And it's like, it'll be exciting to watch. It'll be fun to cover, but it's going to be a frustrating conversation to have at the end of the season, because it's like, how good can they really be,
Absolutely. And I've been a big believer of this. And it's a lot of things people ignore. Like, I don't care how good players you are. Like coaching matters. Like even good coaches can make bad teams pretty good. And I just wanted to say something else. I've heard a lot of people, or a few people, saying about they should bring in Liam Cohen. See, I don't know about bringing in at sometimes it can be successful about bringing in staff that was already in your bringing in a coach that's already in your staff.
Yeah.
But I think we've pretty much seen with Jason Light, where he's had his choice outside of bringing somebody within our staff. The one time that he brought someone in, that was his choice, being Bruce Arians, and that got us the Super Bowl. So I'm confident that I'm more confident in Jason to bring someone in outside of instead of someone within our staff. I'm perfectly fine with Liam staying at offensive coordinator. I mean, you're probably going to get someone else for the defensive. But we'll see about that. One more thing, Rhett. I just want to say thank you for all that you've done for giving us Bucs news. I've been listening to you since 2018, and I just want to say thank you for all this. I'll try to listen. Go Bucs.
Go Bucs, my friend. I appreciate hearing that. It certainly makes it worth it. And yeah, I think the conversation about Todd Bowles is such an interesting one. Moving on from him as head coach, we'll figure out what it's going to be at the end of the season. I'm not gonna say that they're going to do one thing or the other, because we don't know. It feels like it's trending one way, but again, there's still plenty of time left for this season, especially considering how they ended their season in 2023. But hold on, let me fix the camera here. Let's actually take another call here from the 813. You're on the Cannon Fire Podcast. Hello, who's this?
Hey, Ryan, it's Big Country.
Big Country, how you doing, my friend?
Pretty good. My thing is, I think we should have never hired. I can't even think of the guy's name now. The head coach,
Todd Bowles.
Todd Bowles. There you go. I just drew a blank there. Yeah,
It's late. I get it. It's late.
Of him. Yeah, I was never a fan of him when we hired him. When Bruce Arians stepped down, I was always more of a fan of the offensive coordinator at the time.
Byron Leftwich.
So,
yeah,
Byron Leftwich. I think we had a better chance with him. But I agree. I think Liam Cohen, no matter how the season ends, I think Liam Cohen should be promoted to head coach, because He's got our offense where we need to be. We just need someone better on the defensive end because Bowles has been a good defensive guy, but he's never been a good head coach. If you look in with the Jets in Arizona, he's never been a good head coach. He's never had a winning record anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, the pattern with his teams up in New York, they were getting worse every year. And players were an issue. That was something that was talked about. Like, he definitely didn't have a desirable roster during those times. Injuries could be talked about this season. But for the most part, I think the impression fans have is like, hey, this is still a somewhat talented roster. You got a damn good offensive coordinator who's showing that he can score points week in and week out. This team should be winning more football games, despite how shorthanded they are right now.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. And my last thing is I want to know what we should do at the trade deadline. Should we be buyers or sellers? And what should we be buyers and if we buy?
Big Country, I appreciate your call, my friend. I'll answer your question here in a sec.
All right.
I'll talk to you soon. Go Bucs, my friend. That's one of my card plugs there, Big Country. Shout out my good friend, Big Country 2988. All right, let me answer his question here. As far as the trade deadline goes, I fully expect the Bucs to do nothing at all. I know a loss like this feels like it would change things, but I mean, this is a game that a lot of people expected the Bucs to lose this week, and I think everyone fully expected this defense to struggle against Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce and now, clearly, DeAndre Hopkins. The Chiefs tried to target Travis Kelce very early on in this game. I think he had 5 or 6 catches by the end of the first quarter, but he only had like 25 yards. So the Bucs were prepared to shadow him early on in this game, and I thought they did a decent job until things just kind of started to slip away from them. And then, Kareem Hunt was getting involved, and he really was a wrecking ball tonight for Kansas City as well. So they were moving the football. I don't think they make any moves here. I don't think they sell. I certainly don't think they sell. I think a lot of the talent on this team is already under contract or a guy that the Bucs are looking to pay. Again, I had seen a rumor, and this is just like a Twitter rumor, so it was a completely BS page with no sources, so take it as you will. But I did see something that said the Bucs were one of the teams that would be interested in Cleveland's, Greg Newsome, the cornerback for the Browns. I had seen the Bucs would be interested, but I don't know. I don't expect them to make any drastic moves like that. I don't. I think it would help them. But the resources that you're giving up, the draft picks that you're giving up, I think it's all something to think about because they certainly do love their draft picks, and they don't like to make a lot of in-season trades. I think the last one they made was Steve McClendon back in the 2020 season. And that was like, at the time, everybody was just, okay. But that'd be a huge move today if they went out and got a Steve McClendon tomorrow for this defensive line. And then again, as far as the Liam Cohen promotion from within, before we get to this next call here, I appreciate you holding on for me. I am not as gung-ho to say, hey, Liam Cohen is the next head coach for the Buccaneers 2025, only because, one, trial and error under the same general manager typically doesn't happen twice, but we saw it happen before with Lovie Smith getting the axe and then Dirk Cutter getting promoted from within. He was an offensive coordinator. The Bucs still had a top 10 offense for all of the years that Dirk Cutter was head coach. He had Todd Monken as his offensive coordinator, Jameis Winston as his quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick for some of it, but they still moved the ball very well. They didn't win football games, and that's because Dirk Cutter wasn't a leader. When you look at the Carolina Panthers this year, and you look at that fresh, new, young offensive coordinator that they just promoted to head coach, I know it wasn't a hire from within, but it was one hell of a risk. A guy that had never called plays, gets 1 year as an offensive coordinator, does pretty well, but definitely had a lot of things they could have criticized him about. Gets the job at Carolina. Say what you want about the roster, say what you want about the quarterback. That team is not good. They did get a win against the Saints this week, so they won and the Bucs lost this week. I guess I can't talk too much about the Panthers, but I don't know how I feel about Liam Cohen. I like the idea. I think Jason Light personally has a better chance at nailing a head coach hire than Liam Cohen being a Super Bowl champion head coach. But I mean, this is end of the season stuff. Like, I don't want to talk about this in week 9, but I mean, this is the mood among Bucs fans right now. Let's take another call here from the 562. Who is this?
Hey, what's going on there? It's or Rhett. It's Buckwild.
Buckwild, how you doing, man?
So far so good, I guess, except for the loss. I mean, it's another loss. I get it. It's frustrating. It's like there's a lot of things we could talk about. The missed tackles on defense. I mean, defense. For me, is defense. If Vita Vet can't do everything by himself, he's taking a double team. That should leave the outside edge rusher, somebody, get up there and do, show off their thing, why they're as pros. We see Yaya Diaby. Last year he was like on fire as a rookie. This season he started off with, just like what happened. But hey, he's still young. I get it. He's still working his way up there. One thing we got to look at is Zion. He straight up locked his side down.
Yeah.
Strapped. There was hardly any balls going there. They could have Bob Bowes, okay, yes. The head coach could have seen that from a mile away and say, hey, we need to rotate somebody here. Let's get some, double team or some help. But for some reason, like you said earlier, that these defensive guys are not communicating. The senior guys, the veterans, you have Whitehead back there, and what's his name? Antoine.
Yeah.
Man, I'm getting tongue-tied. But like I say, these two are the ones, they're ball hawkers. They should be looking at, hey, this is what you need to move over. Communication is key. They miss a lot of opportunities for the air balls. That air ball, I think Antoine was playing it safe, not trying to hit what was it? Was it Hopkins or Kelsey? He didn't want to hit him that early.
Kelsey, the one in the middle that you're thinking of, yeah.
Right. So he was, it looks like he was trying to avoid any, PIs, pass interference, from the looks of it. That's pretty much from what I can see, when they're showing the game. I mean, this is my first game that I can finally sit down and watch throughout the whole the beginning of the season. I mean, man, it's just, like you said, everybody's frustrated. I get it, but I see that our players are put in place on these plays that they've been playing for this guy for how long? Since 2020?
Right.
They won a Super Bowl with this guy, with our head coach. So I don't understand where the miscommunication is coming from. Why is everybody so confused about his play calling that he's calling out there? Because they should already know, dude, we know how to run this defense, point blank. I mean, it's tough to watch the game, and I'm yelling at the screen about all the offensive holding that's going on within the trenches, allowing their running back to run wild. I mean, that was like, why can't we just have some officials that can just call the game as it is? I mean, I get it. We were running the ball, and then all of a sudden they call a face mask, whatever penalty they called.
So the ghost face mask on Tristan Wirfs. Now it technically would have been a holding regardless, so it would have been 10 yards instead of 15. But they call it a face mask and tack on the extra 5 yards. It is convenient that this happens against Kansas City because, of course, everybody's going to relish in Kansas City getting favorable calls. But goddamn, brother, it really does feel like if it's not one thing, it's another with these officiating crews week in and week out, going all the way back to that first Falcons game and a missed face mask on Bucky Irving. I mean, every single week we are talking about pivotal calls that should be reviewed. Antoine Winfield Jr. at the goal line, we don't have a pylon cam for it. But on Thursday Night Football for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, we got 7,000 angles of it for you. So it doesn't make much sense to me. But, unfortunately, like, we can point at those things and say, yeah, it should have gone the Bucs way. It didn't go the Bucs way. But, I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't fix anything else they got going on at this point. The Bucs are still just bad on defense here.
No, it is. And then, like, here's, I guess, to end everything out, just to finish up my call, is I know that everybody is so frustrated and they're all calling for Todd Bowles' head, which I understand. My only concern is if they fire him now, who is there to replace him that everybody thinks that it'll be a better coach?
If they were to fire him, I don't think they will. I don't think there is a scenario where the Glazers, the Bucs decide to fire Todd Bowles in the middle of the season. If there is, I think he has to lose literally the next 4 games. Like lose next week against San Francisco and then lose 2 in a row out of the bye week, and then maybe they think about it at that point. But if they were to look for an interim head coach, I honestly think it would be one of those defensive guys, maybe a Larry Foote or a Casey Rogers.
Larry Foote, why don't they give Larry Foote the full reign of DC and then just have Todd Bowles be the head coach, period?
Yeah, they still got Casey Rogers. They still got Casey Rogers and Larry Foote handcuffed as the official defensive coordinator for the Buccaneers. So co-defensive coordinators, but as far as we know, Todd Bowles still calling plays. I think that's another interesting question down the stretch. Like, is Todd Bowles going to be calling the defensive plays for the rest of the year, or does he eventually, give that duty to someone else? I don't know how much it changes, but when you're on a defense that needs adjustments week in and week out, you got to try something.
Yeah, I mean, you got to relinquish. Somebody's got to come down from the offense and say, hey, we got to relinquish this position that relinquish that, the DC, over to want to have trust or have faith in one of your guys. I mean, when Bruce Arians brought him over, everybody was like, no, we don't want Todd Bowles. We don't want Todd Bowles. He sucked. You look at him. But what did he do? He turned the defense around and we won a Super Bowl with him. And then as soon as he took over as a head coach, everybody was like, no, let's fire him. We don't want him. But I just don't get it. Let him finish the season. Let him do what he has to do. If he cannot, I'm still pushing that our Bucs will make it to the playoffs, the wild card. We missed out with ATL with Atlanta. That's the only thing that I can see. If we don't win, if we don't win the division, just get to the playoff, the wild card. Just get to the playoffs and go from there. We still have a couple more games left. I'm still pushing and still hoping that we come out at least 10 wins, 11 losses, or 11 wins and 6 losses. That's what I see. And hopefully, I know everybody's going to be like, man, Buckwild is crazy. Well, they don't call me Buckwild for nothing. I'm just saying. But, dude, it's like that. We just, yes, both sides. I think Cohen is doing great, a hell of a job. I just hate to see the other organizations coming after him.
Yeah.
Right off. I hate to lose him like how we lost Canellis. I mean, I thought Canellis was good, but damn, this guy Cohen he's freaking great.
Yeah,
I love the way he's utilizing his players.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that we're out, we don't have number 1 and number 2, but shit, we still got players. We still got 3 backs that can run and catch. We got the other, Shepard. We got Palmer. I mean, what happened to McMillan? Is he out?
I think it was a hamstring. I think it was a hamstring injury for him that popped up pretty late in the week. So curious to see what that's going to be. Maybe he misses some more action. But, I mean, worst case, if he misses the game next week, I think 100% he'll be back after the bye week.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. Have all our guys. I know for 1 and 2 are out. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, Godspeed for them for speedy recovery. Hopefully they come back, to the team stronger, healthier. That's all we could look for is hopefully we get to the bye week and everybody get healthy. But we got to start winning games. You got to start winning the next game. We can't be losing. Like tonight's game was a winnable game. I get it. The odds was against us, but damn.
It was within reach. It was right there.
Yes, it was in reach. It was. And the reason why we didn't go for that 2-point conversion, hey, that's beyond me, but our guys fought. Baker fought, that Baker was running head first to get yardage. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but he was just running his ass off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was in it. He was in it. I mean, hey, I don't get paid to make those big-time decisions, just to talk about them after they happen. But, Buck Wild, I appreciate your insight, my friend. Great talking to you, as always, and we'll talk to you soon. Go Bucs.
Hey, go Bucs. Thanks.
All right. Thank you again to all the Cannon Fire crew showing out tonight, really helping me get through this thing here as we wrap up Week 9 Monday Night Football between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Kansas City Chiefs. 30-24, your final score in this one. The Buccaneers take Kansas City to overtime, but their offense does not see the field. I will say this about Todd Bowles here as we wrap up. With Todd Bowles' defense, there are dogs on this defense, all right? Let me just credit the players who make a difference on this Buccaneers defense. The Vita Veas. I'm a big fan of Kalijah Cansey. He had 2 sacks tonight. Yaya Diaby, when he shows up, has been a force, but we're still waiting on that development. Antoine Winfield Jr., when he's on the field, when he's healthy, arguably one of the best safeties in the NFL. Jordan Whitehead got a little bit of catching up to do. But, I mean, dude, talk about picking up the slack. Tyke Smith at the safety position from a rookie, is just having a ridiculous campaign. I'm trying to find the statistic here about Tyke Takeaway Smith, Tyke Two Glove Smith. I'm going to start calling him Tyke Two Gloves because every time I see him, he's just trying to beat somebody's ass to get the football out of their hands. And he does a great job. Forces a fumble tonight. He has 3 forced fumbles on the season, tied for 3rd most in the NFL and the most among rookies. He is so good at forcing turnovers, just punching the football out. So many out-of-bounds plays. So many plays where, yeah, the guy was ruled down, but that ball was coming out. He forced like 3 or 4 fumbles tonight. Maybe only one of them counted, but he was punching the ball everywhere. He is the first rookie since 2022 with 3 or more forced fumbles in a season. So he's a dog. The Buccaneers have great players on this defense. But where they go wrong, where they lose these games week in and week out, like it's not just not getting a stop when they need a stop. We are talking about all-time performances on this defense. Like Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins would be the greatest quarterback of all time if he played this Buccaneers defense every single week. Lamar Jackson would be the single greatest quarterback of all time if he played this Buccaneers defense every week. Like, it is just beat down after beat down after beat down. This guy throws for 350 yards. This guy throws for 508 yards. This guy throws for 5 touchdowns, 3 of them to the tight end position. This guy throws for 350 yards as a rookie. And it's just week in and week out. We got Kyle Shanahan next week, a coach that has owned Todd Bowles since he has come to Tampa. I mean, the Niners have made easy work of the Bucs whenever they come across them. I don't know if I have the faith that that's going to change. Again, they clearly tried to make some changes tonight at the linebacker position. We'll see how that shakes out. We'll have to take a look at the snap count. We'll break that down on the midweek show, but you can change some things up at this point with the players that you have. It feels like too little too late. And again, that's a conversation we'll have more later this week, talking about Jason Light and his role in this, because I definitely don't think his hands are clean when you talk about the deficiencies of this defense and really this entire roster. Some of the areas where they're missing pieces. I just don't think it's going to change. I think this team can look like they're taking a step, and then you get a performance like tonight. It was a game that was winnable. It was a game that was within grasp, and a couple of mistakes, a couple of inconsistencies. Todd Bowles, I mean, we really didn't even talk about this, but Todd Bowles, for another week in a row, cannot decide how aggressive he wants to be, leaving 4th downs out there. That 2-point conversion. Again, that doesn't seem like a lot to risk considering everything the Bucs had been through to get to that point. The players that they had lost to injury, the mistakes that they had already made. You're right there, man. You should have gone for the kill. And it's a backbreaker. It's going to kill you. It's going to kill you every single time, especially when you have an offense that isn't going to see the field. Oh, man. Here we go. We'll wrap it up with this. My buddy MK here in the live chat. Question for Rhett. If Liam Cohen starts getting multiple head coach interviews, do we take the risk of keeping Todd and letting him walk? Or do we go another year straight with a new offensive coordinator? This is a really good question because, as the weeks go by, and Todd Bowles is the talk of the town here for the Buccaneers, it'll accentuate what a good job Liam Cohen has been doing with this offense. And I think a lot of teams are going to be interested in that. Liam Cohen is another guy from the Sean McVay coaching tree that the average NFL team is looking for nowadays. It's a big risk to make a guy like that offensive coordinator. Look what happened with Dave Canales in Carolina, like I was saying earlier. But I do think it is a risk a lot of these teams are going to be desperate enough to take here. I don't know if it's the Bucs. I don't know. If the Buccaneers have a top 10 offense at the end of the year and firing Todd Bowles seems like the solution, the logical thing to do would be to promote Liam Cohen. But as I said earlier, I don't know if I'm as gung-ho on that as other people are. One, because we've already seen it happen and fail. And two, we're watching it happen right now in Carolina. I don't want to say it's a complete failure, but this first season, it definitely could be marked as a flop. So, the Bucs went into this year with a competitive roster. If this team is healthy, how much more competitive are they right now? If you can nail the head coach hire and keep this core intact, you still have a somewhat competitive football team. And maybe that gives you a higher ceiling than Liam Cohen would as a head coach. Liam Cohen is a great offensive coordinator. Doesn't mean he's a good head coach. Doesn't mean he's a leader of men. He could get Dennis Allen within 2 or 3 years. Dennis Allen was, at least when the Saints played the Bucs, he was one of the best defensive coordinators they had ever seen. And then by the end of the 2023 season, his players had so little respect for him, Jameis Winston is calling audibles in the huddle to run the score up on the Falcons. So, that's a coach who is really good at one thing, but not good as a head coach. And that is a legitimate concern and a real risk these teams are taking. So it's something to think about. I think it's a conversation people are going to have the rest of the week. I think the emotionally charged fire Todd Bowles takes will continue. They won't necessarily continue on this show, but if you would like to call in and give us your fire Todd Bowles take in the future, 305-224-1968. But ladies and gentlemen, that's the show. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. Oh, that's the wrong camera. I didn't mean to turn that one off. I meant to turn the phone number off. Shows like this are not easy to do. But you got to do them. And I want to thank everybody hanging out with us tonight. The Cannon Fire crew here in the live chat. Gold Towel, Chris Etheridge, Austin Mills, MK, our good buddy, Miguel R., John Dawson, DSRT, Realtor Dave Zussman, Richard T. from the West Coast. Shout out to my friend Big Country 2988. Thank you for the super chat as well, my friend. Clap it up for Big Country. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneer news as it happens. Last but not least, you can find myself, Instagram and Twitter at Retticus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. We will talk to you later this week as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have one more game before the much-needed bye week. The San Francisco 49ers stand in their way. That game will be on Sunday. We'll keep you posted on everything you need to know between now and then. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for hanging out with us tonight. It was a late one. You are appreciated. We will talk to you soon. Until then, and as always, go Bucs.